Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA AS Psychology Specimen 1 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Psychopathology, which you need to know for AQA A-Level Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. In AS there are 12 mark questions, instead of 16 mark questions. For the purpose of this video and to avoid confusion for A-Level, the 12 mark questions have been turned into 16 mark questions. Read the item and then answer the questions that follow. Researchers analyzed the behavior of over 4,000 pairs of twins. The results showed that the degree to which obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, is inherited is between 45% and 65%. Question 1. Distinguish between obsessions and compulsions. 2 marks. Obsessions are intrusive thoughts whereas compulsions are repetitive behaviors and acts. Question 2. With reference to the study described above, what do the results seem to show about possible influences on the development of OCD? 4 marks. The results from the study indicate development of OCD is at least partly genetic. The findings suggest that heritability is high, between 45% and 65%. This means that there must also be other explanations. Inherited influence is not 100%, so other factors e.g. environmental or biological may also partly account for OCD. Read the item and then answer the question that follows. Stephen describes how he feels when he is in a public place. I always have to look out for people who might be ill. If I come into contact with people who look ill, I think I might catch it and die. If someone starts to cough or sneeze, then I have to get away and clean myself quickly. Question 3. Outline 1 cognitive characteristic of OCD and 1 behavioral characteristic of OCD that can be identified from the description provided by Stephen. 2 marks. 1 cognitive characteristic of OCD is hypervigilance, looking out for people who are ill. 1 behavioral characteristic of OCD is repetitive cleaning. I have to clean myself. Question 4. Complete figure 2, below, by filling in A and B, to show Beck's negative triad as it is used to explain depression. 2 marks. Figure 2, Beck's negative triad. Negative views about A, for example, I am worthless. Negative views about B, for example, I will never be any good at anything. Negative views about C, the world, for example, nobody values me. Figure 2, Beck's negative triad. Negative views about a self, for example, I am worthless. Negative views about B, future, for example, I will never be any good at anything. Negative views about C, the world, for example, nobody values me. Question 5. Briefly outline 1 strength of the cognitive explanation of depression. 2 marks. A strength of cognitive explanations of depression is that there is research to support them. Burri et al., 2001, found that patients with depression were more likely to misinterpret information negatively and therefore had a cognitive bias, Ellis ABC model, and feel hopeless about their future, Beck's negative triad. This is a strength because it suggests that cognitive biases, such as those identified in Burri et al.'s research, can significantly influence how individuals with depression perceive their experiences and future. Question 6. Outline and evaluate the behavioral approach to treating phobias. 16 marks. Behaviorist treatments are based on the principle of classical and operant conditioning and the idea that behaviors that are learnt can be unlearnt. There are 2 types of behaviorist explanations: systematic desensitization and flooding. Systematic desensitization is a type of behavioral therapy based on the principle of classical conditioning. Using counter-conditioning, the process by which a new conditioned association response is created and learnt to a stimulus that already has a maladaptive conditioned response, and the idea that two opposite emotions cannot coexist, reciprocal inhibition. This therapy aims to gradually remove the fear response of a phobia and substitute and elicit an antagonistic relaxation response to the conditional stimulus gradually. This will lead to the extinction of the fear response. There are phases to this treatment. First, the patient will be taught relaxation, such as mediation, breathing techniques, where the patient will focus on their breathing and taking slower, deeper breaths, as anxiety often results in faster, shallow breathing. Mental imaging techniques, where a patient may use here and now skills which involves focusing on a particular object or visualizing a relaxing and peace scene, and progressive muscle detensioning techniques, where a patient will strain and relax their muscle groups gently. The patient will then create a fear hierarchy with their therapist, which is a list of situations related to the phobic stimulus, from least to most fear-provoking and anxiety-inducing stimuli. For example, say hear the word sound, look at a picture, hold a picture, look through a window, walk past, hold. This will provide a structure for the therapy. The patient will work their way up the fear hierarchy, taking a step approach and being gradually exposed at each stage, starting with their least fear-provoking and anxiety-inducing stimuli. They will practice relaxation techniques until the stimuli no longer produces a fear response, when at this point, they will move on to the next stage in the hierarchy. If the client later produces a fear response, they can return to an earlier stage and regain their relaxed state. Eventually, this will lead to the extinction of the phobia when the most fear-provoking and anxiety-inducing stimuli is responded to with relaxation. The number of sessions required depends on the severity of the phobia. Usually, 4 to 6 sessions, up to 12 for a severe phobia. Exposure can be done in 2 ways: in vitro, where the client imagines exposure to the phobic stimulus, and in vivo, where the client is actually exposed to the phobic stimulus. Wolpe, 1964, successfully used the method to treat an 18-year-old male with a severe hand-washing compulsion. The disorder involved a fear of contaminating others with urine. After urinating, the patient felt compelled to spend 45 minutes cleaning his genitalia, 2 hours washing his hands, and 4 hours showering. Treatment involved placing the young man in a state of relaxation and then asking him to imagine low-anxiety scenes, such as an unknown man touching a trough of water containing 1 drop of urine. As the patient's anxiety gradually dissipated, Wolpe gradually increased the imaginary concentration of urine. In addition, a real bottle of urine was presented at a distance and moved closer to the patient in gradual steps. Finally, Wolpe could apply drops of diluted urine to the back of the patient's hand without evoking anxiety. A follow-up 4 years later revealed complete remission of the compulsive behaviors. A strength of systematic desensitization as a treatment of phobias is that there is research to support the effectiveness of vivo techniques. Menzies and Clark, 1993, conducted a comparison study investigating the vivo and vitro exposure in the treatment of childhood water phobias. 48 water-phobic children between the ages of 3 and 8 years old were randomly assigned to one of 4 groups. 1. In vivo exposure plus vitro exposure, IVVE. 2. Vitro exposure, VE. 3. In vivo exposure, IVE. And 4. Assessment-only control. All the children received 3 individually administered treatment sessions. It was found that when compared to the control group, those in the IVE group made significant improvements when it came to overcoming their phobias, and this generalized to other situations involving water, and maintained over a period of 3 months, compared it the VE condition, which did not improve significantly. This is a strength because it suggests that in vivo exposure can lead to more effective and lasting results in overcoming phobias, as demonstrated by the significant improvements seen in the IVE group. A strength of systematic desensitization as a treatment of phobias is that there is case study research to support the effectiveness of the treatment. Jones, 1924, studied a 2-year-old boy called Peter, who had a phobia of white rats and similar stimuli. Jones was able to remove Peter's phobia over several sessions with him by progressively increasing his exposure to a white rabbit. This is a strength because it suggests that systematic desensitization can be an effective therapeutic approach to treating phobias, as evidenced by empirical case studies like Jones's work with Peter. A limitation of systematic desensitization as a treatment of phobias is that it is time-consuming and expensive. Systematic desensitization is a slow process, and patients need to attend numerous appointments to be trained in relaxation techniques, and gradual exposure can take many sessions. The patient will also need to build a trusting relationship with their therapist, which in itself is difficult and can take time. Also, the strategy is dependent on the skill set of the therapist themselves, which can affect how long this treatment takes or if it works at all. This is a limitation because it suggests that the effectiveness of systematic desensitization may be hindered by the time and financial commitment required from patients. A limitation of systematic desensitization as a treatment of phobias is that the progress achieved during therapy may not always generalize to real-world situations. When individuals are faced with their phobia outside the therapeutic environment, they may struggle to apply the coping mechanisms they learnt during therapy. This is particularly evident when individuals with phobias are exposed to their feared stimuli outside the clinical setting, where they may not have the therapist's support or guidance. In therapy, clients gradually confront their fears in a safe space, often using relaxation techniques to manage their anxiety. However, once they leave the therapy room, the context changes significantly. The presence of real-life stressors, unexpected triggers, or the absence of coping mechanisms learned during therapy can lead to a resurgence of anxiety. The absence of the therapist's support can lead to increased anxiety and a sense of being overwhelmed, making it difficult for the individual to confront their fear effectively. For instance, someone who has worked through their fear of public speaking in a safe, supportive environment might find it challenging to replicate that success in a real-life scenario, such as giving a presentation in front of an audience. This is a limitation because it suggests that the effectiveness of systematic desensitization may be compromised in real-life situations, where individuals encounter their phobias without the structured support of a therapist. The skills and coping mechanisms learnt in therapy may not translate effectively to unpredictable environments, leading to heightened anxiety and difficulty in managing their fears. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.